Shannon, how impressive to you were the Packers?
It was encouraging. It's always encouraging when you can win a football game, Skip, and you don't play your best football. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was sharp, to say the least. He missed some throws early. His very first throw, Skip, he hit the tight end, Jimmy Graham, in the foot with the football. He missed some easy throws.
Real close to being a
pick six. He threw a couple early, had Devontae Adams for a first down. He threw it behind him. And even late in the ball game, when they really could have put the game away, he threw behind Scantling that would have resulted in the first down. They ended up having to punt the football back. Looking at their defense, and that was the concerns because I felt it was strength on strength, Skip. I look at the Packers offense against the Bears defense. Now we go to the Packers defense against the Bears offense. I'm not willing. I did see some encouraging signs from their defense. But for me, Skip, I'm going to hold off because I don't know if they're really, really that good because Mitchell Trubisky was really, really that bad. Skip, if I didn't know better, I swear this was a guy making his first NFL start. He played that bad. Skip, this is what the defensive back for the Green Bay Packers said, Tramon Williams. He said, we wanted to make Mitch play quarterback. We knew they had a lot of weapons. We knew they were very dangerous. We knew all of those things. But if we can make Mitch play quarterback, then we'd have a great chance. Skip, come on, really? Let that sink in. The guy said we wanted the dude to play quarterback. Skip, he is a quarterback. So in other words, we knew if we could shut down their run and make him have to throw the football, put the ball in his hands, because a part of playing the position of quarterback, Skip, is throwing the ball. We wanted him to throw the football, and by all indications, he was terrible at it. So it was encouraging. 10-3. This notion that teams, players, offenses, defenses, especially offenses, don't need to play in the preseason, Skip, is not true. For the simple fact, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing. It's hard for me to believe that you're going to do nothing but go against your team in practice. And then all of a sudden you're going to go from 25 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour in a game that means something, which is the regular season. And I think it showed defense is all about reaction. So if guys miss here and there, that's fine. Just go get the guy with the football. But offense is about repetition, it's about rhythm, it's about timing. But, Skip, the Green Bay has to be encouraged. Mike Pettin came up with a great game plan. Now, he came, that tree of Rex Ryan. You saw some of the looks that he was giving last night, two edge guys, the rest of the guys standing up in the middle, come from one side, pan out to the other side. Those acquisitions that they made in the offseason, the Smith and Amos, Preston Smith, Sindarius Smith, and Anthony Amos, paid huge dividends. Skip, they got a middle linebacker named Martinez. You don't know a whole lot about him.
Well, he's been there.
But he's only his fourth season. Yeah. But he doesn't get the recognition of a Kuechly or Wagner or those two guys in Dallas.
He flies around.
But
he does. He's around the ball all the time.
You watch him. You watch him. He fly. Like you said, you like to see a guy flash. He can play.
He does.
He's a hard player in Jesse.
I don't know if he's Clay Matthews in his prime.
Yeah.
But,
they play different positions, but he's sudden. 10-3. Game was a little sloppy for me. A bunch of punts, a bunch of penalties. But you can expect that early in the regular season, Skip, because like I said, these guys didn't play a whole lot. Nobody really plays a whole lot in the preseason. But Green Bay has to be pleased. The notion that they have Aaron Rodgers and they can win a ball game 10-3. You mean to tell me Aaron's like, you saw him on the sideline pushing Mike Pettin? Hell of a job. We can win games now with our defense. Just hold off, Aaron, because I think a lot of that had to do with Trubisky. Not saying that you guys are not going to be really good, but last night, Trubisky was really, really bad.
So wait a second. At the end of the game, maybe Aaron's body language was admitting, I can't really carry this team anymore. Now you guys can carry the team,
what he does.
right?
Yeah, you go, Skip. Why you do that?
Shoving the defensive coordinator.
So you deduce that.
Just from all your remarks, I think that's where you're heading. They have a defense now. They don't really need him to just fling it all over the lot, try this throw and that throw and the other throw.
Kind of like Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady has a defense for 20 years. Oh, my goodness.
He's had an above-average defense.
Don't do that, Skip.
So, it did get hard to watch last night. Penalty, punt, punt, penalty, penalty, punt, punt, penalty. In the end, it was almost a throwback game to the first 100 years, go back 100 years in the NFL, and it looked like one of the first games ever played, maybe in a snowstorm, right?
Maybe.
You were ultimately right about this game for once. You were ultimately right that Green Bay would prevail, barely.
That's what you call it, prevailing.
Yeah. I was half right because I said the quote-unquote new Packer offense, which actually looked quite a bit like the old one, but I thought the new Packer offense was in the wrong place, wrong time to try to show up and show out on opening solo stage night against the Bears defense in Chicago after Aaron Rodgers, to your point, had played 0 preseason snaps. And did they ever struggle on offense? In fact, they almost struggled as much or more than Mitchell Trubisky did. But where I went wrong, and you called me on this yesterday on the show, and you were right about this, how can you bet on Mitchell Trubisky to do anything, let alone against Green Bay on opening night? And I am kicking myself because I told you that I thought Mitchell Trubisky could figure out how to score 13, and I thought the Bears' defense would score 7.
Right.
And they were close with that first little tipped-up ball, but it hit the turf.
Right.
And I thought it would be 20-17 home team. And I even tweeted at the end of the game, it got so bad that, to me, Aaron Rodgers versus Mitchell Trubisky is like me versus you on Undisputed. It's just a mismatch. So do you realize, and I once covered the Bears for 3 years, so I have a pretty good feel for what their tradition is. Yeah. Do you realize the Chicago Bears cornerstone franchise in the National Football League hasn't had a real quarterback since Sid Luckman in the 1940s?
Yeah.
So we've gone 80-ish years, and they haven't had a real quarterback because, really, their second-best quarterback was Jay Cutler, right? He had his moments, but it's still Jay Cutler, Vanderbilt University. I still love him, but again, was he that guy? No. Did Jim McMahon have a season? He had one season, but he also was backed up by, arguably, the fiercest defense in the history of pro football in 1985, and they were celebrated before the game.
Right.
And I also tweeted, put Jim McMahon in. I know he's had concussion issues, but he looked pretty good last night, so maybe he could have been a little better than Mitchell Trubisky. And then as that little skit that Peyton Manning did for ESPN goes with the Bears guys, George Wendt, like he's asking them, so who are your quarterbacks? And they say, well, Sid Luckman. And then he says, yeah, I'll give you that one. And well, Jim McMahon was pretty good for a year. And then the other guy says, well, Bob Avellini for a week. Okay, so that's all they got. So I was horrified trying to watch this guy play last night because he missed 8 or 10 passes by 8 or 10 yards each, where you're just saying, what? Who are you throwing to that time?
That interception.
I don't know. Well, thank you. So that's the play of the game. And yet and still, you're all the way down to, what are you, 3rd and 10 from the Packers 16 with 2 minutes left, 2:03 left, and you actually have a throw for overtime, right? Because it's still just a 10-3 game. Right. And what does he do on the interception, if we could see it again? He just stares down who was it, Allen Robinson, who he'd been throwing to all game, but he just stares him down, and he's just completely double covered in the back of the end zone. Yeah. There is no hope. So he throws a prayer that gets answered by Adrian Amos, who's his ex-teammate, the safety from the Bears last year, now a Packer. And that's the ball game. And it was such a fitting way to end that game. So now I go back to Aaron Rodgers, and he's on, live on NBC after the game, and he's saying, we have a defense. And I said, no, they had Mitchell Trubisky. Right? No, that's the bottom line to the game. How can you rave about that? Right. You can't. You can put little to no stock. I don't even know what to take away for Green Bay, except they got the W. Right. And that's big. And you got a first-time head coach who's 39 years old, so he got a dub. Yeah, and for me, Skip, that's what I was saying. I'm not really – because I do think the Packers moving forward, Skip, they can put pressure with the two Smith guys on the quarterback. But I'm not really ready to pass out a bouquet and say you arrived now because I thought Mitchell Trubisky was so bad. And he had – Green Bay picked him early in the game, and the guy ended up dropping the interception once he hit the ground. I'm like, dude, what are you? I don't know. You're falling up your back foot, and you try to throw a pass to Cordell Patterson. That's not what come on, really, Mitch?
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.